Good afternoon. My name is Alana, and these are my colleagues, Victoria and Gordon, and together we make up Complete Consulting. Now first we would like to thank you for being here on behalf of Ms. Dawes and Cognitive Interactive, and let me just say that we are so excited to speak with you this afternoon about where we see your organization, Cognitive Interactive, heading towards in the future. Now if I could quickly draw your attention to the agenda that we have up on screen. You do have a copy printed out for you, so if you have any questions at all, feel free to refer to the agenda at any time, and we can address those questions at the end of the presentation. Now, Cognitive Interactive is a very unique organization with a mission of developing the social, professional, and technological skills of autistic and neurodivergent youth by building this youth community for these individuals that need a support system through the gaming industry and addressing those skills through that industry. Now it's very clear that what you excel at is developing these skills for the autistic and neurodivergent youth. And right now, Ms. Dawes has an incredibly ambitious goal of expanding this organization in order to become something larger within the community and within the world as we see it. But before we consider what the problem and the issue at hand here, we would like to address three key issues. Primarily, number one, your cash flow considerations of whether we go towards the social enterprise model or the strictly non-for-profit model, and what that will entail for each of those options. Additionally, the client acquisition methods that you currently utilize for gaining this market for the programs that you offer, these autistic and neurodivergent youth. And additionally, the program offerings that you offer these youth as a whole. Should they be catered towards a more not-for-profit side programming, or should they be catered more specifically in the social enterprise side of more catered towards specific individuals in specific cities and towns? With those key issues at hand, we would like to define your problem as which business model is the most appropriate and will best support the immediate growth of Cognitive Interactive, as well as continue for the long-term growth and sustainability for the organization. Now, we have conducted an internal analysis of your organization. First, let me touch on a few key strengths that we've seen. First and foremost, the niche market that your organization operates within. There's no one quite like your organization, Cognitive Interactive, that offers these programs for the autistic and neurodivergent youth in order to develop these skills that your organization helps support. Additionally, Ms. Dawes and her 10 years experience in working for not-for-profits and the autistic industry and with the autistic youth, and her passion and expertise in this sector. Additionally, we see a very broad appeal for the types of programs that your organization supports, as not only does it cater towards the youth that you work with, but also the families of the youth, the post-secondary education institutions that accept these individuals in order to get their additional degrees, and as well the gaming industry, which will eventually hire these individuals for long-term success in their future. Now, a few key challenges that we have identified is primarily, number one, your staffing. Right now, Ms. Dawes and only 2 other part-time workers are operating this organization. And additionally, the loss of startup support that you've indicated to us will be happening within the next 2 weeks as you leave your current incubator phase at the university that you operate out of. Now, in the external analysis side, some key opportunities that we've identified is, number one, the expansion of your organization. Regardless of the mode of expansion that you choose, you've indicated that there's a potential market of 250,000 individuals that you can cater towards to utilize your services to help these individuals. Additionally, if you choose to remain and stay as a not-for-profit organization, the potential government grants that you could apply for to help the funding of your organization as it expands. Now, a few threats that we've identified is primarily the competition. While you have indicated that there's no one else who quite offers the services that you offer, there are indirect competitors that compete for the same market and the same individuals that your organization supports. And should you choose to remain a not-for-profit, by applying for those government grants, those indirect competitors will then become direct competitors, as they will be competing for the same source of funding that you'll be competing for from the government. Now, Before we dive into our recommendation, we would like to address a few of the key stakeholders that we need to ensure that we keep in mind through our analysis of where we see your organization proceeding in the future. First and foremost, the clients and the families of the people that you support with your services. They want the positive and engaging experience to continue that we've seen through the customer testimonials that you've provided us from real life stories of individuals that your organization has helped. We have the funders of your organization who would like to meet the defined objectives should you stay as a not-for-profit, where your program offerings must remain in a certain scope in order for them to keep supporting you in the future. We have the colleges that accept the clients into their education programs, as well as the industry, which will eventually hire these individuals within their businesses. They want the skilled individuals with the developed social, professional, and technological skills that you provide. And lastly, the staff and volunteers that work for your organization and are so willing and passionate to help out. They want to support your vision of an autism-friendly future where everybody is viewed on the same playing field. Now I would like to invite my colleague Victoria up to walk you through some of the decision criteria that we've established.
Thank you, Alana. So there are a number of different decision criteria that we've identified as being very important to consider for a successful recommendation and ultimately for your organization to achieve excellence. The first decision criterion is the mission. Your organization currently is reaching out to individuals who need that support network to help develop those professional, social, and technological skills in order to prepare them for adulthood and pursuing their future. The second decision criterion is whether or not it is financially viable for the future. Will it, since Ms. Dawes has invested so much of her time and she is clearly very driven in her mission, will it allow her goal of reaching an annual salary of $60,000? And the third decision criterion is whether or not it will allow the possibility of growth for the future. Will this organization, or will the recommendation that we will recommend, will it be able to grow into 10 different cities by the year 2018? So these are three different decision criteria that we've identified as being very important for a successful recommendation. So with that said, we've identified three different alternative models. The first being a not-for-profit approach. And the second would be an affiliate social enterprise approach. And the third would be a single entity social enterprise model. So as you can see, the first approach is a not-for-profit one, and the last two are social enterprise approaches. So allow me to elaborate on each of these alternatives. The first alternative is a not-for-profit approach. You would be operating at a net profit of zero every year, and you will be relying on those government grants and those government fundings. And additionally, you will be able to continue offering those reduced rates for individuals who are looking for your programming. So clearly there are some benefits to this. You are staying true to your mission and allowing that life skill development for those individuals who require some assistance in that development, as well as there are wage subsidies for the not-for-profit approach. However, there is a downside to this approach. As with many not-for-profit organizations, you are dependent on the government funding, and this may be a short-term, financially feasible goal. The second alternative is an affiliate model approach. So this would be a social enterprise, and you did specify this when you were speaking with us. So this would be, your organization would operate as a social enterprise parent company and allow other locations to pay a licensing fee to have permission to your intellectual property and your brand and image. This is a benefit because there is a low or limited financial risk. However, there are some downsides to this. There will be an additional search for suitable affiliates. You don't want to just allow anyone to have property to your international property. You do want to maintain a brand image, and additionally with this, you will lose some control over your brand image and such like that. With social enterprises, there is a for-profit balance and the not-for-profit balance. And other individuals who are interested in paying for this licensee fee may be more motivated by the profit-driven side. And so that is a downside to this approach. And the third alternative is a single entity social enterprise. You would operate as a single social enterprise, and you would allow, or you would develop uniform programming across different cities. This will allow your control over those different programming. You would be able to develop into those different cities like the goal that you set out. However, it will take a lot of effort to implement this, but clearly Ms. Dawes is a very motivated and driven individual, and it's clear that she is capable of pursuing this goal. So as you can see, there is a decision matrix, and the single entity social enterprise actually meets all of the three important decision criteria we've identified. It fulfills that mission of developing those individual skills. It allows that financial growth for Ms. Dawes to gain that $60,000 annual salary, as well as it will allow the growth into the different cities by 2018. So ultimately, our recommendation is to pursue the single entity social enterprise because it does meet all three of our decision criteria. So with that said, I would like to invite my colleague Gordon to speak about the implementation.
Thank you, Victoria. So Alana spoke to you today, and she told you about some of the issues that your organization was facing and some of the goals that you have. Victoria looked at a few different directions that you could go in approaching those and decided that the correct one, the most appropriate one to reach your goals, is to go with the single entity social enterprise. I'm going to show you exactly how that's done so you can get the plan going today and it can be a successful start and a strong future. The implementation phases are going to be set up such that the immediate term is going to be from 0 to 6 months, followed by the short term over the term of your goals until 2018, the end of 2018. And after that, we'll also look at what needs to be done beyond, after your goals, to continue improving your programming on the social profit and the financial profit sides. Now, before we really get into the crux of this plan, I did want to explore some of the cash flow considerations that you have. So we know that you are considering some different fundraiser options, including a pub crawl. And we wanted to propose the following fundraiser to you. A CI video game showcase. This would be a showcase event to celebrate the completion of the incubator summer program of your organization and showcase to the autistic community and their families some of the games that were created by the participants in your programs. You could invite industry sponsors who may want to sponsor the event and be able to work with these youth, as well as the families of those affected by ASD, so that you're able to make those connections and celebrate this. This would be a great way to leverage your strengths and what you're already doing in order to form a fundraiser that's a bit more appropriate in how you're going to achieve the initial cash required to implement some of this plan. Moving forward in the immediate term, there are three main focuses that we need to look at for this term. First, to incorporate the social enterprise. This needs to be done to make sure that you establish your identity as a social enterprise. Next, prepare the teaching instructions. So while the incubator phase wraps up over the next 3 weeks, we know that you do have an instructor instructing this class. We want to make sure that they take the time to really facilitate the knowledge transfer for these things, adding instructor notes, making sure it's clear that if another instructor at a different location wanted to teach this material, that they'd be able to pick it up and do so. So just adding those elements to the notes for the instruction materials and for the course materials so that this can be replicated at other sites, which we know is your goal. And lastly, looking at a facility search. So searching out other sorts of facilities that you can offer this programming in so that you can continue with your expansion. we are recommending that you continue looking at facilities that you can rent for specific one day at a time, as we don't think that your organization is quite ready to find dedicated space. And as well, we think dedicated space restricts your ability to move from city to city with your program offerings. Next, looking at the short term, from 7 to 36 months. Again, there's 3 main focuses that need to be achieved here. First, actually acquiring those additional sites, where you're going to expand to, and making those secure connections. As well, contract instructors. So we are recommending that you source contract instructors from the industry and from maybe the sites that you choose to secure, so at high schools or at universities. And we are recommending that because of the startup nature of your business, that it's more appropriate to have one-off contract instructors that teach the session, rather than continuing to hire additional paid employees, which may have some uncertainty as to hours of work and things, as you can't be 100% predictive the rate of growth. Lastly, we want you to establish an online network, and you can use the participants in your programs to do this. It would be a network for the participants and for the families of participants that have participated in your programs to connect, to keep ongoing tabs on what your organization is doing, and as well be a vessel for any information that you want to disseminate. Now, the reason that we're recommending that you do this is twofold. First of all, you have the ability to do this as you're working in the technology industry, and it would really be a relevant project. And as well, it may be a more appropriate method of sourcing new participants and finding referrals rather than doing cold calls from a database. It may have a more human touch to it. And lastly, looking at the long term, after you've achieved the goal of moving to 10 sites, we want you to make sure that you look at your performance metrics and really determine what those metrics are going to be in the long term. How can you track if your social impact is increasing or not? We recommend doing this through surveys, through following up with past participants and seeing what their rate is in the workforce, and seeing how this program has, what sort of achievements they've been able to achieve as a result of this program, so that you can start tracking the effectiveness, and you can do that going forward. As well, revisit your age demographic. So we know that with this plan, the social enterprise plan, we're focused on an older group of youth. But at this point, when you've expanded to 10 sites, you may have more capacity to start looking at younger participants again. All right. Lastly, I'm going to look at some financial assumptions here. So this this plan should be financially sustainable with the following assumptions. So the growth at the following rates, moderate growth over 3 years, as well as maintaining your the rates that you told us were appropriate for paying for room rentals and for staffing. And as well, we're looking at 15 students per class. Now, with these financial assumptions in place, you see that there is a net income in the bottom line. And we've decided to present these financial statements with that net income in place, because we know that as a social enterprise, you may decide that you want to use that net income to reduce the class sizes, or you may want to use it to create a headquarters. And exactly what is done with that will be dependent on the rate and stage of growth at the time. But we wanted to point out that as a social enterprise, you don't need to earn this much net income. And so we've done that so that you're able to, we've designed it this way so that you're able to use that to invest in your programs and increase the social impact if possible. So lastly, we're looking at a couple risks with this plan. The first one is that the funding is not sufficient, so the initial funding just to get going. And this is why we are recommending that you reach out to those industry partners. So we would want you to try to seek that sponsorship for your video game showcase to get started, so that you can get that initial cash for operations, as well as in working with the participants. So working on both sides of your stakeholders, both the participants and those who their knowledge is going to benefit in the long run. And as well, it's possible that demand could exceed capacity in a specific city or site, as you aren't going to be able to maybe secure these room rentals or fast enough, something like this. This is why we are recommending also that you may want to have an occasional drop-in event, just like the video game showcase, or perhaps turn it into an annual event. So lastly, I'll go over what we talked about today. We looked at what your organization was doing well and the goals that you want to achieve. They're ambitious, but with your dedication and passion to this industry and to these stakeholders, they're possible. The best way to do this is through the single entity social enterprise, and we will now take any questions that you may have.
So you talked about the revenue again. Is all program revenue coming from?
So the program revenue is coming from participant fees, and we base these on your existing fees, plus the 40% that you expected you would be able to charge more as a social enterprise not reliant on government grants.
And you think there's enough elasticity there to allow that, those fees in?
We believe that there is, and also this plan is based on contract instructors as the expense and room rentals. So we're not recommending hiring employees or purchasing dedicated facilities, so that the plan is flexible if your growth is slower or faster than you expected, and you're able to match your expenses with your revenues.
I have a question with the additional staff. So you just have the instructors as well as like Melissa's personal salary. So like once you have 10 different cities, will you not need more staff to help just manage that? It seems like a lot of work for one person.
We would be needing, yes, additional staff to help manage that. However, in the initial startup phase, we would be also hoping that with the gaming showcase that we propose that you do offer, we would be able to make more industry connections and potentially, in the initial startup phase, attract more volunteers who may be interested in helping out with the cause and the mission that your organization supports. And once the finances are there, yes, we would be looking into hiring more staff in order to keep the organization sustainable.
Testimonials, telling the story of the clients. Not a lot of, you can speak to that a lot. Do you see a role in the social enterprise having a real heart of the business?
Testimonials are really important, and we really appreciated, we got a real sense of the impact that your organization has by reading those testimonials. To make sure that we're able to continue to capture those is why we're recommending that as part of your programming, you can work on forming an online network of your participants and their families, so that you can continue to memorialize those testimonials and really capture the impact that your organization is having.
In the expansion, you talked about using volunteers in the various cities. I'm a little bit concerned about my ability to do that when I'm a social enterprise and I'm technically a business trying to make money. What routes do you think I'll be able to attract volunteers through?
For our online platform, that would be a way to get our word out about our mission and about our organization. And those testimonials will also help play on those heartstrings of the individuals who would like to help develop the ASD community. So through that, we are hoping to attract more volunteers through that approach.
Do you, so we take this back to Melissa and we tell her what you guys have sort of suggested as our consultants. And she says, but I really want to be a not-for-profit. Can I take some of the strategies around fundraising and put them into a not-for-profit model, or do I have that ability to do that? Do you see any opportunity there?
It's a great question. It's something that we definitely considered. Now, we know that Melissa has an entrepreneurial spirit, and the issue with the not-for-profit model is that it does allow you some startup grants, but only for the first 2 years, and then you're locked into that. We are recommending that you start as a social enterprise, and that if in the future you'd like to revisit it, it's possible to change into a not-for-profit. But it's not possible to move the other way, to take a not-for-profit entity and change and take all those donated resources and decide to now be a for-profit enterprise.
Okay.
But for this plan, for the next 3 years to achieve the goals that Melissa has set out, we are recommending to work as a social enterprise.
Okay, so it was for that reason that you wanted her to move into a social enterprise rather than a not-for-profit, because of her entrepreneurial abilities and thoughts, and
Yeah.
you wanted her to stay away from government grants.
It's not to stay away from them, but you mentioned to us, or Melissa mentioned to us, that these government grants are only renewable for the first 2 years, and that they do place a lot of restrictions on what sort of programming she can offer, the size of the classes, who exactly she has to offer these programs to, and we believe that this can be done without those restrictions.
Great. It's good.